Hello and welcome to SUFCtv on this sunny Sunday. Hope you're all doing very well. So our guest tonight on SUFCtv Live is Phil Dawson, who was one of the heroes for, of course, our famous 1989 FA Cup victory over Coventry City. So we're getting all the stories from him from that 80s era. And of course, that 80s era, it seems to be a bit of a theme. A lot of our guests recently have played in that era or been very knowledgeable in that era. I've been to Mark Freight last week, who has great memories on that era. So it should be great to get another load of stories from a different perspective on that 80s era. So without further ado, I'll be giving Phil Dawson a call now. Get involved in the live chat, your thoughts and questions for Phil, and relax and enjoy tonight's show.
Hello.
Hi Phil, how you doing?
Good, mate. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. First of all, welcome to SUFCtv, Phil. So before I get into the interview, how are you generally doing at the moment in this lockdown?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Obviously very bored for the first few weeks, but now I'm back to work, so everything's sort of back to normal, really, from that point of view.
Cool. Excellent stuff. So firstly, Phil, I want to go all the way back to when you were a child. How did you first get into football?
My dad, basically. He was a player at Chipstead Football Club back when they were just a junior team. And not a bad player. I think he could have played at a higher level, broke his leg badly and obviously never recovered from that. And then we were always taken to football, either by our nephews and whatever and cousins and stuff like that. And then just grew up with football. And my dad obviously then ran the team and brought us right through from, I guess, 9-year-olds to 18-year-olds, me and my brother, and brought through, fairly successful teams at Chipstead. And I come right away through Chipstead from 9-year-old right up to 18. And then, obviously, then I spotted where that's my progress through the youth ranks.
Excellent stuff. Was it when you were at Chipstead you played in the first Surrey Premier Cup final against Sutton Reserves, which Sutton won 1-0?
That's it, yeah. So that was quite a decent thing for a team like Chipstead to get to. So obviously, yeah, Sutton Reserves were not bad, but we were playing against other decent teams, and it was quite a thing, and we were quite unlucky to lose there. And obviously, from that point, there was me and Paul Rogers in the team at that time at Chipstead, and Ken Ireland was obviously the manager of the reserves then, and he obviously asked us to come. The first thing he asked us to do was to go on the youth team. We were still a youth then, to Groningen. So we actually went on tour with the youth team, and then obviously the next season, so it was at the end of the season, went on a closed season tour, and then come and started at the Sutton the next year. So me and Paul Rogers joined from that Chipstead team.
So how was it coming through the youth and reserves at Sutton United to make the first team?
Well, it was very well structured. Everything was very professional. Had some fantastic coaches from the youth team guys to, I must sing his praises. Ken had a very successful team in the reserves there, and brought through lots of players coming through to the first team. And were winning the leagues, every other year, basically. His problem was being too successful that he brought players through that, were going into the first. His reserves had to be rebuilt again. So we had a very good, successful team, and a lot of the players in the reserves especially went on to have really decent non-league careers, There's numerous people that have, and professional careers as well. So it was a great foundation, and the thing with Sutton is that everything was based along the first team. He had his way of doing things, and Ken, they played the same systems and this, that, and the other, and it all just worked. You could put anyone in that team, and anybody would play all right. So it was really good. The fantastic professional setup coming from a club like Chipstead. I was actually at Wimbledon as a junior and got released before I got taken as an apprentice. So that was with Dario Gradi, was back in the day. So I'd been to a professional club and it was like a professional club when we first went there.
Actually, just touching on Dario Gardi, how was he? Because obviously he has an association with Sutton United as well.
Yeah, well, he actually, I forget where he saw me playing for Chipstead, so he used to live out of Reigate, and so he'd obviously have scouts and whatever, but he used to go and do a lot of scouting himself. And in the end, when it come to pre-season training, and I was involved with the apprentices, and then played in the South East counties for the reserves and the youth team, he used to pick me up and take me to training down at, on the A3, which is St Evans there, and he was fantastic, and obviously he's got a tremendous record, obviously a crew and that, for bringing through players. So it was quite good when I got signed as an associated schoolboy with Dario. And, went up through the ranks and had a lot of the players that, I didn't get taken as an apprentice, but the 3 or 4 or 5 players that did get taken as an apprentice all made very good careers at the programme. So, I was close to being a pro, but wasn't quite good enough, but they all went on to play at Sheffield United and this, that and the other, and obviously through Wimbledon as they progressed up through the leagues as well. So I've got not too many regrets that I didn't get taken on there, but Dario was very good, and Wimbledon was on its way up then, and so they were quite successful anyway, as a club itself. Really enjoyed my time there in my short time that was there, but obviously played with some very good players.
So moving back on Sutton United now, you made your debut on the 10th of November 1984 versus Bishop Stortford. Can you talk me through that day for you?
Well, this is where my memory goes a little bit. I remember it now, as you say, but if you'd asked me the question, what was my debut? I think Rick in midfield there and got injured, and so I just come in and just previously, my best mate Paul Rogers, who'd come from Chipstead with me, he'd made his debut, quite a bit of time, had been very successful, and it was we'd been training with the first team, and we knew how things were, and he's an unbelievably good manager, a man manager, so it was quite effortless coming in there, and the team was very successful. The first team there was winning the Isthmian League and stuff like that. So just putting one player in there like myself, everybody helped me out. We had some unbelievably experienced players there. From your John Ranges and Tonys, and all around me were, Pritch was involved and stuff like that. And it was effortless, really. It was really easy. Obviously, I had talent and a lot of enthusiasm and channeled in the right way. I was just told to keep it very simple. That's all. They had a system of playing that was easy to play and some very good players that could play that system. So the transition really easy.
And can you talk to you about that 1984-85 season? Because this was the first of 2 seasons where we won the same league, the Isthmian Premier. We scored 115 goals that season, 84 points. So can you talk to me about the memories you got that season, which were obviously the...
Well, the goals that you recount now, I can't remember exactly who was scoring them, but it would be Paul McKinnon, Lenny Dennis, Mickey Joyce and that, and Mickey Cornwall, and the wide players, Mickey Stevens and Nigel Golly. We had a threat all the time. You only had to get to them and we could create things. And then secondly, from set pieces, so Mickey Stevens delivering usually, but the big boys coming up like your John Rains, everybody was chipping in goals. I mean, not me. If you'd see my record, it would be about 3 or 4 goals. But, your Paul McKinnons and that scoring 50 goals, your Mickey Joyce is scoring 50 goals, that sort of scenario. We just had a very successful, knew exactly what everybody was doing. From, I can remember some of the team talks where you go to other clubs and everything was set out and basically everybody knew what they were doing. So you didn't have to say, Mickey, you're taking free kicks or in-swinging corners or whatever. And that system of play, and when somebody got the ball with obviously back in the day, we never, they do now, everything went long. But you knew if Lenny Dennis went up for a header, he was going to win it or cause a problem, and you'd win after seconds and push forward like that. So it was very simple football. what was to just get a POMO, position of maximum opportunity, get the ball in the box or get crosses in quickly, not mess about too much. So me as a centre midfielder, it was more of a battle and getting the balls to people who could play a little bit more. And obviously that was our strength, scoring goals, I think, always had good goalkeepers sort of right the way through there. But the goal scoring is what you would think we, recognise in our team there.
And just touching on Barry Williams again, do you think what he got so right was blending young talent with the experience? That obviously that's so important for a manager to have that fresh youth, but that experience to carry those youth players through and guide them. Is that something he just got so right?
Yeah, as I remember it, we always had a few old heads, a few guys that have been about and maybe played at other teams or they've gone and nicked from other clubs, and then the young guns coming through had really a real talent, and that there was it was coming through the reserves all the time, and obviously the scouting system, and people wanted to come to play at Saturday night, whether it was Anstead, Epsom, whatever, even your Dulwiches and places like that. We were the top team, well, even like Mickey Cornwall coming back from Worthing and stuff like that. We had an attraction, so you could attract some of the best players, and so it was quite effortless, really, getting the players to come to the club. Yeah.
So in that 84-85 season, what was the reaction of the players when we found out that we weren't going to be taking that step up to the conference?
I can't really remember. I was more on the periphery. I mean, the guys that would have affected would have been the guys that have played for the last 3 or 4 years. For me, it was winning the league, and I didn't really have any aspirations. I just wanted to play. But as a massive problem, I think we just knuckled down the next season. I can't remember the reason why we didn't, whether it was the club didn't want to go up or whether... Do you know the information on that? Can you remember?
To be honest... Every player I've asked from that era has said the same thing as you. They actually can't really remember the exact reason as to why we didn't take the promotion. So yeah, I don't know either, and the other players don't.
Whether it was just the club wasn't ready to go up, because back in the day, the Vauxhall Conference, that's what it was called, I'm sure. Gola League, maybe it might have been called. That was quite a professional thing, and obviously going nationwide. So I don't know. Bruce was obviously involved, but Dave Hermitage was chairman then. I don't know whether it was something that the club wanted to do at that point, but then obviously the next year when we were successful, they had to go for it. I think, but I don't know the reason why. But Sutton have never been a big gambler and whatever, so, we just took it that it was a steady club. It was always going to be successful, and maybe for us guys, it was, maybe the next season was better for us to have another season being very successful, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, certainly that would breed a lot of confidence in the team, and we did it in style. We did it with 11 more points than we did the previous season as well. So what are your standout memories from the 85-86 promotion season?
Well, as I said earlier, I can't remember all the games and all that, but I assume that's when Yeovil. Have you got any were second to us, or so we had a few dogfights with Yeovil. Obviously, the Yeovil games were massive. We were getting 5,000 people and that. Is that who was second to us?
It certainly was. We beat them. We beat them to the title by 4 points. Our goal difference was plus 70 compared to their plus 44. We were standouts, 109 goals as well. So we didn't run away with the league, but our goal difference and our goal scored were certainly better than all the other teams in the league.
Well, obviously, though, they had great aspirations of being very successful, and they were throwing a lot of money at it. Sutton were not throwing a lot of money at it, but Yeovil were getting players from all right, left, and centre, ex-pros, and attracting some big names to there, and obviously having a big crowd. We didn't ever really get massive crowds at our place. But that is what I remember, their rivalry there and a couple of big games. I think we played them on a Tuesday night down there, and there was 5,000 people, and it was so intimidating. And even looking at their players, they had some right characters there. But in the end, our team spirit. So they might have had some superstars that have played in what would be the first division then and stuff like that. But we had people like Gollies and things like that were semi-pro international players, and we could beat anyone on our day. So when we come up against them, I think we had a dogged determination, and that was my memory of really. I mean, there were some fantastic teams in there as well. Like your Bishop Stortfords and this, that, and the other. There was some. Probably Woking were down a couple of leagues. So I can't remember the other teams that were in there, but. That would be my recollection of that, is just the match up against Yeovil on them couple of games. I do remember actually scoring against Yeovil. Now I don't know whether that was in the conference or in one of those games. It was a home game. I do remember that. I didn't score many goals, so I do remember scoring against Yeovil if it was there, and it was a brilliant goal, I'm sure.
Excellent stuff. So moving into the conference now, we actually had a really good first season in the conference. Finished 7th. How do you think the lads adapted to the conference throughout that first season we had in the conference?
Well, it was basically the same team. I can't remember the guys that we got in. There was probably a couple of new guys that we got in for the first year. It was just fresh. Everything was fresh. So some of them guys, like I say, the Rainsies and all that, they've been playing against the same teams. All your local teams, your Dulwiches, your Carshawns, and all this lot. And then going away to play at Frickley and this, it was brilliant, and it was so professional. Runcorn, how intimidating, Northwich Victoria. There were some fantastic games that, you look back on now, and they were brilliant games, and we just had nothing to lose. So we went out, and like I said previously, we had the guys that could score goals. So, we had chances. We were great at set pieces. Guys were banging in goals right, left and centre. Just could win your games when you weren't even in it, and just one chance and bang, you'd score a goal. And so that was the first season was just a joy, really. We enjoyed the travelling. It was new. It was good. It bonded the team together. Just having a few beers, on the trains on the way home, or coaches, changing the way your work was. So, you might have a game, at Telford, which you'd have to leave early. So that was okay for me. I was, just a self-employed builder. Guys who were working in offices had to change the way they did it, but it's completely different to the way the first team is now. Obviously, it's so much more professional than when we first started out. But it was fantastic. It was new. Some great teams in there as well. From your Barnets over there, and it was really enjoyable.
I'm actually just looking at your one goal in that title-winning season, by the way. Came against Yeovil. We won 3-1 that game. So just as you mentioned about the Yeovil goal, you actually scored on the final day.
Mine was the most important one there, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Actually, it was the last game of that 86-87 season in the conference against Northwich, which gave us a 1-0 win. Obviously, I know you said you don't remember every single game, but have you got a memory of that goal on the last game of that season?
Yeah, a little bit. I hit it left-footed. I think it was quite a way out, to be honest with you, and I was generally right-footed, and I scooped it in, and the keeper sort of it went in the far corner and whatever. So it was a bit of a scuff, but it was outside the box, definitely. Can I remember? I don't think we were ever in any relegation or anything like that, so there was no celebration. The one thing I do remember that somebody said to me in that year is that we drew a hell of a lot of games. And if we won half and lost half, we would have finished something like second or third in that league. But anyway, that's irrelevant. We were always going to win games, but things just turned out. And obviously there was a lot of good players about there that could score goals as well against us.
And that Joyce actually said about that game, we only had one defender. So it was an extremely attacking lineup that day. So it was certainly the shackles off.
Barry did that a couple of times, and that's where he just tried to have the right people in the right places. And we had loads of attacking options. He would just put them out and just, you play left, you play in there, and he'd create a new formation. I think we did it at Welling as well, where we played 5 up front. And that was like, I was more of a holding midfield player, and we were just told to hold and cover a few gaps and all that lot, but basically just get the ball up to them and let them do it and cause havoc. And of course, some teams had never ever seen anything like it. And like I said, the players that we had were all exceptional players, so could all play in different positions, or goals. So yeah, Barry mixed it up there. There was a lot of times when Barry picked his team where you wondered what he was doing, but he sort of had his favourites as well. So he'd fit you in if you was playing all right in one position, and then space come available, and you come back from injury, he'd fit you in and change things about. So we did have a pretty steady team, but he was liable to throw a few curveballs.
So moving on to the FA Cup runs period now, but actually before that, you had an accident with a chainsaw in the aftermath of the Great Storm in 1987. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, well, I was just, like I said, I was a builder, and our yard that we had up in Woodcote near Wallington, all the trees had come down, as people would remember, and we had some chainsaws up there. So it actually wasn't a chainsaw. The other guys we had two chainsaws there. I had electro angle grinder, which is all very horrific, and we took the diamond disc out of it and we put a circular saw blade in it. And I was just cutting all the small bits, and we were clearing. They were cutting the big bits, then I was cutting it. And I had my knee up on a branch, and I just, from the weight of it, just come down. I'm looking at it now. Actually, got a pair of shorts. Went straight across my kneecap.
Oh.
Now that was when was that? That was October or something like that. I think the storm. And so it was a pretty clean cut, to be honest with this. So it's stitched up. I mean, the problem I had getting to hospital was I had to go in a van. I was covered in dirt and sawdust, and it took us about an hour to get to Mayday Hospital because of all the roads were closed because of all the trees down. It was that bad. So, but when I got there, they made a pretty good job of cutting it, slicing it up, but I do remember one of the first games I come back was Middlesbrough away. So I come on in the second half of that. So that was probably, I had about 6 weeks. I must have had 20 stitches across my knee and internal stitches. Took 6 weeks. And then they said, the doctor had said it's okay to go and play. So my recollection of this specific injury was I didn't play in the first game. I think I was sub against Middlesbrough at home, and then come on in extra time up at Ayresome Park. And then I think it was like 2 nights later, we had somebody like Camberley away in the Surrey Cup on a right muddy pitch. It was unbelievably muddy, and I started that game. He obviously changed all the guys who played in the FA Cup and put some reserves in, and me and subs played in that game against Camberley. I think it was Camberley. And after about 10 minutes or 20 minutes, I slipped, and this guy come in, and we went knee to knee. Ooh. And the whole thing burst open again. Oh. And so it was miles worse then. I was taken in an ambulance with Stuart Hemsley, who wasn't playing in that game. We went to St Peter's Hospital, and the lady nurse said, I've got to clean this out. You might want to move back a little bit. And she basically got a nail file and water and scrubbed all of that out of it. And then after that, I had a knee infection, it was a dirty cut then. So that scuppered me. I had 6 weeks prior, and then I probably had 10 weeks at least after that. I was told to wear a knee pad. So any pictures after that for the next couple of years, I had made out of an old pair of shin pads and some elasticated stocking. I made a knee pad that I had to protect my knee because it was so vulnerable.
Just going back onto that Middlesbrough game, by the way, what was that experience like playing at Ayresome Park? They were a good second division side. I think they got promoted that year.
Well, that was unbelievable. I mean, in that season there, so we'd had a good cup run, hadn't we? We'd been to, I went with the assistant manager, so Dave Wall. We went down to watch Aldershot, who were a professional team, and we watched them play, and the first team were at home. We come away from that game at 4-0. That was in Division 4. And when we got back, both of us said, we'll beat these easy. And I forget the score against Aldershot, in 4-0 at home or something like that. Then we played Peterborough, so that was great experience. We beat Peterborough away, I believe, 3-1 Joycey might have scored or whatever. And then, so going to Ayresome Park was just the pinnacle. So we were building up. We knew we could beat teams. We'd beaten Aldershot. We'd beaten Peterborough. And then Middlesbrough, obviously at home, we nearly beat them. I can't remember the game, whether we had too many chances in that game. But that was just a fantastic experience. Something that we'd all aspired to. The guys at Sutton had been, basically at Sutton and that level, to go and play in front of that crowd in that professional atmosphere. That was something special. And to push them so close, we were really unlucky. Nigel Golly had a chance in the second half and he hit the bar and stuff like that, and that we could have won that game. A bit of luck here or there. And we were absolutely gutted that we didn't beat them. And I hadn't contributed to that, apart from being on the sidelines and there. But I remember guys like Robin Jones, a right back. He played the previous season for a Welsh team, Carnarvon or something like that, and they'd had a really good cup run. And I remember him crying in the changing rooms afterwards, saying like, "This will never happen again. We had missed our chance or whatever." And lo and behold, I'm skipping on another year. We did it the next year, So those sort of little memories. And the other memory I have is we stayed at York in this beautiful hotel, and we had a great time that night, as we normally did on our away game.
Have you got any stories to tell from that night, or is it all confidential?
Oh God, what is his name? Awara Tifi. I think he might have been there. He was playing the piano. I think it was like the Grand Hotel, right in the railway, near the railway line, and that. We went up on the train, stayed overnight. It was just we stayed a few nights in hotels and stuff like that, but it was just a special, under the floodlights. Any FA Cup game or any game like that, So playing that game, and playing with your mates as well. So that's what we all had, was a common bond, that we all liked each other. We all had a drink together, from Barry, right through the kit man, everybody was part of the team there, and all the committee as well. So Bruce and Dave Hermitage and Tony Holland and all those guys. I can't remember half of them, but they were just a fantastic crew. We're all dressed up nicely in our bleeding blazers and brown ties and all that. Like, we all looked fairly smart, and it was just a fantastic experience. Something I wish I had more memories of, really, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Certainly, and so you've set it up actually really nicely for our next FA Cup run. We went that step further. We went to the fourth round this time. Can you talk to me firstly about the memories from the earlier rounds for us to get to the point of the Coventry game?
Well, can you remind me of it? Have you got anything in front of you?
Give sec. So this is the 88, 89. This might take a bit of loading up. There's a lot of games there.
Well, I know that team there that we had, like I said, Barnet were a big team, and teams like that. There was some very successful teams there. We knew that we could go and beat anyone, and we weren't frightened of anyone. So when it come to and if you look at our Surrey Cup record, and a lot of the time we weren't playing full strength sides, but we won that, 5 out of 6 seasons or something like that. So we were a pretty good cup team. We were steady in the league. We knew that we had the potential, always had good forwards and a really strong defence and good goalkeepers. So we could go and beat anyone. So you've got me now. I can't remember. Have you got the games up?
I've got the games from the first round. So 4-0 win at Dagenham in the first round, 19th of November. So that was a thumping victory. That, and Aylesbury 1-0. There are first round and second round victories to get us to that Coventry game.
Aylesbury, for instance, were a really good cup team as well. So I remember playing up there, and they'd had some, maybe not that year or whatever, before or after. So going away and beating Aylesbury is a good one. Go on, sorry, carry on.
So it was Dagenham 4-0. So it was Dagenham 4-0 the round before. So that was a thumping victory for us. If that brings back any memories.
No, sorry, I can't remember every game. Only if I scored, that would just...
Well, let's move on to the big one then, the Coventry game. Coventry had won the FA Cup a couple of seasons previous. So we knew we were coming up against a quality team. What were the lads' first thoughts when we got drawn Coventry?
Well, obviously you're in that, in that TV bubble and that whatever. I think a lot of us were together when the draw got made, like on a Monday night or whatever. It's obviously not as glamorous as it is now, and everybody at TV everywhere. But I think we spent a lot of time, or we would have if we were, we all lived around like the Banstead area. So Tony was our captain at the time. We probably would have gone to his house and watched that sort of draw, and then that's the team you want, isn't it? Somebody that is a big name, but you think you've got a chance against. So that was our thought, and obviously as we went along, so there's probably like 2 weeks before, we probably had some serious games in between the previous round and getting drawn to them, but we had no fear for them really. I don't think we just had a set way of playing. And it didn't matter whether we were playing against them or someone else. It wouldn't have mattered. I mean, we knew we had a chance because they wouldn't fancy it down at our place. When you look back at the game, it was an absolute tip, the pitch. When you look at pitches now, you can't believe the state they used to be in. So we had a chance there. They were used to playing on slightly better pitches. And just a couple of things that people had told us, like John Motson was involved in it, and he thought we had a good chance. We'd spent a fair bit of time with him. We'd heard that they'd come down either the Friday and looked at the pitch and didn't fancy playing on it. And when somebody tells you that, when we were full strength. We had one player, which was Stuart Hemsley, that wasn't playing, but we were at full strength. So we just fancied our chances. We had nothing to lose, to be honest with you. So they were not. I think they maybe lost a couple of games recently to that. They'd obviously just come in it. But they were actually fourth in the first division, which would be the Premier League. I think they were fourth at the time.
Yeah.
So they were not on a bad run or anything like that. It was just everything went in our favour, and I mean. You talk about the game, and I'm sort of famous now. Matthew Hanlon's famous, but I put the cross in. So anytime I ever say about that, but Stuart Hemsley, who was injured, he always did that. So I just stepped in, and like John Motson says in his commentary, he was out watching us on the rec at the back where I practiced that, and obviously I cocked it up every time. But come the glorious time, I stepped up to the plate and did exactly what Stuart Hemsley what I was doing, for seasons before. It was our little set piece, that one. And along with the near post corner, we used to score a lot of goals like Tony scored from the first goal. So, I was in the right place at the right time, stepping into Stuart's shoes there. So we just really fancied our chances. And there was another time in the game itself is, who were the two centre midfield players? Sedgwick was one of them. And they obviously had loads of chances when you look back on the game. But about 20 minutes to go, the two centre midfielders, and me and Paul Rogers, who is my best mate and still, was then. And we stood next to him like we were taking a goal kick, and we're marked up and that. And they just said to each other, we're never going to win this game. And I looked at Paul, and Paul looked at me and thought, right. And then we were absolutely knackered, cramp and all that lot. But that just drove us on for the last 20 minutes just to try and survive. And that's what we did.
Excellent stuff. So when you won that game against Coventry, what were your first thoughts? Like, is it just disbelief that we can't believe we've beaten one of the top first division teams, especially as we're a non-league team?
Well, we knew we could do it, but it was just the initial thing was the mayhem of obviously the pitch invasion, and then all the press, and then in the changing room. So that was completely unusual. We couldn't even get in the bar really to have a beer afterwards, which is sort of what we wanted to do. It was very unusual. And then obviously getting Barry whisked away to match of the day, and then Matt and Tony and, all getting whisked away. So the half of that game was was not as big as us, say, winning the Surrey Cup, where we could all get together and have a big party and all get. So it was completely different. That was on a different level, you know. So by 9 o'clock, we'd all go home and get pizza and whatever, and that was it, really. So we didn't celebrate it wildly at the time, and you know, the press thing going on from the next 2 weeks was all completely different to what we'd ever been accustomed to. So, you know, it was a different. We turned into, you know, superstars overnight in that little time, and we'd never experienced any of that, really.
So we were drawn against Norwich City at Carrow Road next. It obviously, away from home, it is going to be tougher when you don't have the home crowd behind you. But I think, well, we beat Coventry, so even though away from home, why can't we do it again?
I think we always had that mentality, and it depended on the opposition. Obviously, Coventry were unlucky and didn't play very well, whereas Norwich, well, they were second in the league or something like that in the first division. So they were very good. So a lot of factors, like you say, playing away, we didn't play very well. We'd had a couple of beers the night before, and we were enjoying it too much. I think that would be my memory of what me and Paul Rodgers is. You know, like I said, in centre midfield, we never got near anybody, so we never had any chance. So they scored. I say very early on. I can't remember what the first goal was, but once they got a goal, that was an uphill task there. If we'd maybe got the first goal like we did at Coventry, we would have maybe had a chance, but. No, we were. That just showed us how out of depth we were, really, playing somebody away like that. We've done it in the last 5 or 6 games, you know, to be fair. All the other FA Cup games from Peterborough, Aldershot, you know, nearly Middlesbrough, and then those games. We put a hell of an effort in to get that far, and I think it was just like, it was a step too far for us, and we wanted to enjoy it. And we weren't that pressured about winning the game. We'd achieved what we wanted to do. We weren't ever going to win that FA Cup. So I think just to get to that and get to the accolades that we got from beating Coventry, well, that was enough for us. So we enjoyed that moment, you know, of playing there. Although it was a right beating, you know, we got our asses completely whooped there in the end, and it was a little bit embarrassing. I wish we'd only lost like 2 or 3-0. But, you know, that's what it was. That's what it is. You can't change it now.
Yeah, it was Malcolm Allen who got 4 goals, and Robert Fleck got a hat-trick as well. So the quality of those players, they just, fortunately ran right.
Those guys there, they qualified for Europe the next year, I think. And they went on to beat Bayern Munich in the European Cup. So they beating us 8-0. They could have beaten anyone, and they did. Yeah. They beat Bayern Munich. So they were a very good team at that point.
So moving back onto league now, at that time we were really solid. Our first 3 seasons in the conference, finished 7th, 8th and 12th, so we're really established conference side going into the 89-90 season. But in our last 2 seasons of the conference, you had quite a few injury spells. Was it a bit of a frustrating time, those last 2 seasons we had in the conference?
Yeah, well, for me personally,
Yeah.
I mean, I was very injury prone. I'll never forget Barry Williams saying, "If you live by the sword, you die by the sword." So I always thought of myself as a bit of a tough man, but there's always somebody bigger and harder than you, you know. So it's quite a dangerous thing to try and put your foot in there, because you're going to get hurt as much as you're going to hurt somebody else. So I played the game like that, and you know, wasn't more of a finesse guy too much. And so I did pick up a lot of injuries. And then at the time, my body, obviously through being a builder, I got a bad back. I had pelvic problems. So I had a bilateral hernia and a tenotomy, my groin, which is still causing me problems now. I've just seen a physio this week, and I've told them all about that and said, well, your pelvis is all out of line and stuff like that. So I suffered with injuries, and I think back in the day we didn't have the treatment, although Danny Keenan, whoever it was at the time, was very good. But you were rushed back into things, you know. I remember getting a cortisone injection up at Harley Street in my pelvis, so right above my nuts, a massive great big needle on the Friday afternoon to play a game on the Saturday. And then another time going to a physio, strapping my whole legs together so you couldn't lift them up sideways because I had a groin problem. And stuff like that was very frustrating that I didn't have a successful run really, and help the team, let's say. So I was frustrated, and that I was injury prone, I must admit, and so that is one of the most frustrating things.
So when we went back down to the Isthmian League, you played a handful of games under Alan Gain, and your last game being against Cheshire in November 1991. So what your sort of what's your recollection of that period?
To go back, Keith Blunt was there, and bless him, I had a lot of time for Keith, and he was a great coach, but he tried to change our team too much.
Yeah.
So I played under, and at the end of that first season, I'd had enough, and some of his decisions, as much as I respected him, he would maybe drop me or whatever, and he would bring in some weird and wonderful players. And so I went out on loan to Woking, and then I come back to Sutton and played under Gainey, and I didn't see he didn't see eye to eye with me. He obviously wanted to change things about as well, so there was this period of getting rid of the old guard. It's not that I was old, but there was a lot of players, that got moved on quite quickly. And with Gainey, there was he wanted to bring in his own players, so he'd come from Staines and that way, and he'd been very successful. But he wanted his own players, and I didn't fit in with him. So and I haven't fallen out because I've seen him, but he didn't give me the full 100% truth. And so, that is playing and managing. And as I realised as I've gone, that, you don't always fit into somebody's books, but I still thought I had something to give to the club. I was still young, although I had a lot of injuries, but, that I still had something to give.
So, overall at Sutton United, you ended up with 244 appearances and 9 goals, which certainly isn't a bad feat at all. And do you think, with the Sutton fans, you like to be remembered as a hard-working and battling midfielder whose wholehearted approach made you a very popular player?
Yeah, well, in like my second season or third season, I can't remember when I scored that. Yeah, my second season, I think I finished runner-up in the Supporters Player of the Year. I think the goal getter on. I think he won it. Might be a bit wrong, but so I was well respected in that front. Yeah, always give it 100%, which I think that was a given for all the players. But obviously, like your Mickey Stevens, he always worked hard and up and down, but had more skill. But I'd be the one getting stuck in, and he'd be the flair player, And so people notice you if you give 100% all the time. And I've given it, I've said this as I've coached throughout the year. If you give 100% and put your foot in there, which is what I was expected to do, people will respect you. And that was the game in those years as well. It's all changed now. Pep and all these beautiful football and ticky-tacky football and all that lot. It certainly wasn't the day. Wimbledon exploited it with the Pomo position of maximum opportunity, and we did that. And we played very simplistic football, which fitted and worked with my style. Now, I did adapt myself in future years to go on and play more skillful football, but it wasn't required. I wasn't the skillful player. We gave it to the skillful players. And so that was my thing. And I think I had a great relationship with the crowd and the supporters. We had a tight crew of guys there that are still, roughly involved in the club now, and they always appreciated my efforts. I would like to think I always gave 100%.
Certainly. So after you left Sutton, you went to Carl Shorten, so not far, all next door neighbours. Can you talk to me about your time there?
Well, that was because I had the fallout, and basically I thought, well, F you, I'm going to go to your nearest rivals, who were Carshalton at the time. And quite honestly, Billy Smith, who is an unbelievable coach, right up there with your Barry Williams, Billy. And he didn't really need me. He'd already got a guy called Neil Norman playing in that position. I said, no, I'm going to come to you and I'll work my way in there. So I didn't even play for the first 5 or 6 games, and they had a successful. I didn't go for any money, didn't take a wage. At those stages, we never got paid great money. And then I got in. Neil, I replaced him, and then I basically ended up with his wage packet, and you just got what you were given. There's no negotiating. It was just like, there's your 50 quid. And so I really enjoyed it. I had some brilliant players, some Jimmy Boltons and Robin Bests and Raffington and Les Cleveley in goal. And they were right up there with Sutton. I had the potential to be up there with Sutton in my eyes. And obviously with me and Gary Wilgoss and people like that playing. Andy Riley, there you go. Andy Riley was playing in that team. What a player he was. And so I joined a very successful Carshalton with a great manager. And also, the one thing that all these guys remember is I like to have a drink as well. So there was a great drinking culture there, a great team camaraderie. Everybody got on with everyone. And so it was local to me. I didn't want to be driving around the M25 and, for training, and that is 5 minutes down the road for me. So I really enjoyed my time at Carshalton.
Excellent stuff. So after Carshalton, you went half a season at Chipstead, where you'd started off. So what was it like returning there?
Well, I had my injuries and basically had to semi-retire. So my pelvic problem was getting so bad that I couldn't play. So my local club where I very first started out, I just went up there and started helping out, doing some coaching, and then got myself fit enough to play at that standard, which was the Surrey Intermediate or whatever it was, and just about play. And then obviously I got myself fitter and fitter, and I was, we were fairly successful at Chipstead for half a season. And what happened then was 2 lads who used to coach up there, Bernie and Bernie Donnelly, he'd gone with John Raines to Molesey. So he'd come up and he'd always have a drink up at Chipstead with us guys. And so I was playing, he'd come up to watch me. He said, what are you doing up here? Come and join us. So John was at Molesey in the Isthmian League. He'd been successful at Dorking and places like that. And he'd taken the same players with him. And obviously I ticked his box, really. Another hard-working player that, didn't want a lot of money and would go to Molesey, which was not the prettiest place in the world to play. So I went there to the end of the season, and I think that's the highest that Molesey have ever finished in the Isthmian League. They finished something like that. So we were very successful. We had some very good players over there, and obviously played for, Johnny Raines, and he used to pick me up so I could have a beer afterwards. Didn't have to drive home. He'd put me in his old little minibus and pick 2 or 3 players up on the way there, him and his cigar, and then go away journeys with him, and then enjoyed my time, obviously, there as well.
So your last club was Whiteleaf. How did that move come about?
Well, same thing again. I never played for money. Just friends of friends, you knock about, and then somebody, say, like Gary Wilgoss and, people like that, they go to different clubs, and then you come up for, I've had enough of that. And then Big Lee Richardson, who's down at Whiteleaf there, just give me the old phone call. I might have had a contact. Usually you'd have a friend there, wouldn't you? And just say, like, next year, well, nothing really. I could go here, could go there or whatever. And again, it just ticked my box. It was local. I'd obviously started my family and stuff like that. Money not important to me. More enjoying your football with a good bunch of guys, and actually had a fantastic time at Whiteleaf. Nigel Golly was there. He moved over there. So as soon as you know that Nigel, what a fantastic player he was. He was unbelievable when I first went to Sutton, and when we finished at Whiteleaf, he was bloody 40 years old and still running past 18-year-olds. His enthusiasm like that. So when you know somebody with the integrity of Nigel Golly's at a team, you think, no, that'd do for me. and again had some brilliant players. People were attracted, maybe because I was there. You attract other players, and they get some a bit of a role, and a really good social. I had some good times down there. Too many good times, really.
So I've got some questions in our live chat, both from James King. The first one is, what are your favourite memories from your time at Gangrene Lane? Pick 3 of your top matches.
Wow. Well, it would be probably the Yeovil game away when we played in front of 5,000 people. So that was pretty special. I can't remember the result of that game, but I just remember like the whole national press was on it and everything, and there were, it was something special to be involved in that. And I'm pretty sure it was a Tuesday night game. So anything under floodlights, and it was at the end of the season, like the 5th game from the end of the season. That was pretty special. My other games would maybe be coming on a sub against Middlesbrough just because of how big it was, and that was pretty special. And of course, the Coventry game. They might not have been my best games. Like, I feel like I could have played better or whatever. And when you look at the highlights, you could have played better. But as a lasting memory, they're probably. You put me on the spot, and then when somebody will say to me, "What about that game? This, that, and the other?" I can't remember. Well, there's games that stick in your mind. Of like we went up to Gateshead and beat them 10-0, 10-1. Can't remember. We beat Kettering, I think, at home, or Kidderminster at home, 8-0. Things like that. We were on a roll, and we could beat anybody. But to win by that margin, there's certain games like that, and certain times of there's certain games like Altrincham, Tommy Docherty was their manager, but I remember after the game Nigel or Mark might have got sent off, then it all ended up in a big fight with Mickey Cornwall, couldn't get across the dressing room, everybody's holding each other back, and we won the game. We'd been 10 men, we won it or drawn or whatever, had a really good fight, and then as in the match, and then the train journey home, just the everybody bonding afterwards, that would be some of my memories. There's not one specific game or 3 specific games apart from the big games that I've just mentioned.
And the other question from James King is, we were saying the other day that your team had a very special bond. Did you know at the time it was one-of-a-kind bond you had, and what was it that made it so special?
No, I don't think you know at the time. When you look back, so when I went to management and went into coaching, what you try and do is replicate what you had there. Now, obviously, you can't replicate the players and whatever, the fantastic players that we had. But you can replicate certain things of, like in training and the bonding that we had in training, and everybody was there. And I want everybody to turn up, make it as enthusiastic and enjoyable. And then for one beer. Now, if you're driving, that's fine, but you stay and you talk about football and you enjoy it and you get to know your teammates. And that's what I did at my last club. And that's what we always had. Everybody was there at training. I never missed a training, whether it was snowing or anything. Just the camaraderie of everybody wanting to be there. And what we'd play is old v young, or, 5-a-side games. We'd be out in the car park, at Sutton United. It's unheard of now. It's they've got that beautiful AstroTurf. But we were out the back in one floodlight in mud and rain. We didn't give a toss. We just wanted to be there. And honestly, we'd be, you hear about these players, Ronaldo's and all that, staying after training. We'd be out there, they'd be turning the lights off on us. And I'm not saying that. And if it was pre-season where we'd run our guts off, we'd still be kicking balls about, because everybody wanted to play. You got a couple of exceptions. You might be Mickey Joyce, John Raines, for instance, never did any of that. But you knew exactly what you had with every single player. You could look at them in the changing room, and Barry, the manager, through that era, and you think, right, he's got my back, and you know what he's going to do. So we all had our little set pieces, know what long throw, we got this, short corner, this, that, and the other, and it was effortless. So that is really hard to replicate, but we all knew that we had we were pretty good. But and trying to replicate that is hard if you haven't got the right players. So I hope that answers your question.
Great stuff. So actually, after Whiteleaf, it was a vets football, and he finished at Woodmansterne playing for Joycey at 50 years old. So can you talk to me about those experiences?
Right. Well, firstly, the vets football. So I went and played for Sporting Kids. So Mark Hines and Gary Wilgoss, and basically all non-league ex-players. And so we were unbelievable. Firstly, we had an unbelievable team at Whiteleaf. Like we had a vets team there. We won the Surrey Cup 3 years running, and basically we were all still playing in the first team. But then I went on to playing vets football when I was like in the early 40s, and it was too easy, really. We'd be winning games 10-0 like your Mark Hines and all that. Like he'd just be scoring 6-7 goals, and so for me it wasn't a challenge. It was you'd only have 2 hard games a season, like against Battersea, Ironside, or Warlingham, which were very good teams. But every week just winning, we were playing against big fat old people. So then Joycey said, "What are you doing playing that? Come and play with his 2 boys up at Woodmansterne." So I played my last few years up there and thoroughly enjoyed it. I got Stuart Mass and his boy to come and play up there. I've played with my 2 boys. I played with 5 nephews in that team. I played with lads that I played with at Chipstead that have come and joined, just getting there. And Joycey had, like I said, all these young lads, and he wanted me to be an experienced player, and that's what I went and did. I helped him out in a man's game. So taught him a few little tricks, rolled my sleeves up, made sure I was there training, obviously took training, and tried to pass something back, So absolutely loved it there. And finishing off, so I ended up becoming manager as Joycey retired and become, one of the directors down at your place. We won the treble in our last year. So we won the Surrey Cup, the Red Hill and District Premier, and the Red Hill League Cup as well. So I accumulated into that, and having a group of lads who, same scenario as some good players, but all like to have a drink and all like to have a social and all had each other's back, Nobody getting any money or anything like that, just wanted to be there and enjoyed playing, and obviously winning. When you're successful, people will want to be there. So I enjoyed playing in the vets. I enjoyed playing at Woodmansterne. Unfortunately, my body's just given up on me. Otherwise, I'd still be playing now. I love the whole thing about football, and I've coached. You might be going on to this. What I put in my little thing there. I coached since I was 17 years old, and I've basically coached at every team that I've ever played for. So Whiteleaf, I was player coach, and always dabbled out. I've been out in America and coached with some fantastic players and a lot of Sutton players, which I'll come on to. So I've loved the coaching side of thing and giving something back as well.
Yes, you coached in the USA for 5 summers in your 20s. Can you talk to me about that? That sounds very interesting.
Well, it was through Joycey and Martin Clark, so the Corver method. So when I was talking to you guys about, Pomo, the Corver method is the Ajax method of playing football and the skills method of coaching people. So it was completely different to me, and obviously I found it very difficult. So it's all like your step overs and your Van Bastens and this, that, and your Cruyff turns. And it was just like, bloody hell, this is brilliant for coaching kids and actually improving my game. So we got coached over here, Clarkey and Alf Galustian, and they just got what was the bunch of the best players who couldn't become pros and coached them up, and we all went out to America. So from your Stuart Hemsleys, Stuart Massey, Martin Clark, Robin Jones, he was out there. So it was all the lads that we've been playing with, or you knew, we just went out to a place called Lake Placid where they had the Winter Olympics and coached. And then I moved on from there. Gwyn Berry was there as well. guys that remember Gwyn, and he's obviously still doing coaching all around the world. I coached in Lake Placid for a couple of years, and then one of the other partners in the Corver method was Charlie Cook, who played for Chelsea in the 70s. And I had the opportunity to go and work with him. So I did the residential camp at Lake Placid, and then I went on to stay with Charlie. And then the year after that, I did a whole 6 months living with Charlie and coaching the whole, all across America and coaching local teams in Cincinnati. Now, that guy was unbelievable as a mentor. You've never seen, he was obviously an unbelievable player. He got in people's world 11s, and he played, out in America, played for Scotland, and played for Chelsea. He's one of the top 10 players at Chelsea of all time. So to actually go and live and work with him, and me and Gwyn live with Charlie and work with him, that was an unbelievable experience. It was fantastic, second to none. Obviously, being paid for something you love doing out in America, and at that time, they thought that the British, and we were probably the best coaches in the world. So getting paid to do something like that, and with that sort of mentor, and we've been knocking about and playing games, and that's when me and Gwyn was very successful. He went from Sutton, went to Woking and won the FA Trophy a couple of times. Could have turned pro, Gwyn. We were playing against him in 6-a-side games with his kids' teams, and he was as good at 50 years old as any player we were playing up against. Honestly, he could have stepped into, the conference level, no problem at all, at 50 years old. He was fit, strong, and so skillful. It was unbelievable. But so I loved my time out there. And obviously only when I got my family, my wife did come out once, and with Cincinnati, where we were based. But that things change then, don't they, when your first baby comes along and stuff like that. But I absolutely love coaching, and I've loved coaching all the teams that I've ever played for. And I genuinely think, I'm not a bad coach. I know what people like. They want to be, from 8-year-old kids to, 30-year-old blokes, whatever level they want. You've got to have enthusiasm, and they've got to enjoy it. And they always played my football and coached.
Great stuff. So just looking back on your playing career, could you give me, if you had to create a 5-a-side team for players that you've played with or played against, so there's a big selection here, could you try and conjure one up for me?
Well, now you're asking, aren't you? You should have given me about 2 days to sort about it. When you watch people's best 11 on the telly, they always forget someone, or they're sorry for this, that, and the other. But if I go through a goalkeeper, I think Ron Fearon was one of the best goalkeepers I've ever played with, along with Les Cleveley, who was pretty good. But Ron wasn't there for much. He was right at the start of my season. He went off to do American football kicking or something like that. As a defender, I think Tony's right up there, Tony Raines. Might not have been the best in one position, but as a utility player, him and Andy Riley would be my defenders. I would, in midfield, Mickey Stevens and Nigel Golly, I'd put them up either side of me any time, any day of the week. They played right and left wings, and they were unbelievable. Up front, Paul McKinnon was a goal machine. Joyce had wanted me to big him up, but I didn't play much with Mickey, but he was just a goal scorer. But Paul McKinnon I spent a fair time with, and I would say, he's as good as you get. And obviously he had a fantastic career, played at Malmo, played at Blackburn, quite rightly so. And so we had some great players coming through there, as in like your Effena Cuckoos and all this lot. But these guys were established non-league players playing for England and things like that, So they're probably right up there, along with my 2 best mates, Stuart Massey and Paul Rogers. I'd have to give them a mention. Obviously, me and Paul had a pretty good relationship in centre midfield for a time there, and he obviously went on to do great things in the pro game, as did Stuart. So that's roughly my best 11. I know I've fuddled about there, but you'd have to give me a lot of time to go through some players, and I'm sure I'm going to miss out players and not mention them.
No, at first I sprung that one on you, and you actually did really well there. So just lastly, before we wrap up, how would you? We talked all about your playing career. So just to condense it down, how would you just sum it up, and how much did you enjoy your time in football?
Well, I specifically enjoyed my time at Sutton because we were very successful in the reserves and in the first team. And it was a very well-run club as it is now. Bruce is my accountant. He's always been my accountant. And what a fantastic guy and level-headed guy, and the previous guys that were there. So my time in football from Sutton was a great foundation. Obviously, you have your highs and lows, and obviously injuries and things like that. But I would have changed some things, and I wished, like I said, my two best mates were turned pro. I wish I'd had the opportunity to do that, because I think I could have been, a better player than I was. I didn't maximise my opportunities, maybe. For one reason or other, I maybe liked to booze too much, was too small. Back in the time, they were bigger players. So I have got a small regret that I didn't maximise my opportunity and play as many games as I should have done. And not the winning side of things. I think winning, you can... we weren't winning things at Sutton when we were finishing seventh and that in the conference, but we were absolutely maximising what we could get out of ourselves. So it's not all about winning. You could be successful in different levels of football. So I feel that I contribute post coaching. I've near enough captained every team I've ever played for, and coached every team I've ever played for. So I feel like I've given a fair bit back, and hopefully people have enjoyed my as well along the way.
Excellent. One last question is coming from James King. Have you had any favourite moments from the past few years as a fan?
What, generally, or just at Sutton? Obviously it's great to watch them play Arsenal. This is a weird one. I support Manchester City. Now, I know we're all, should be supporting our local team, but my first ever memory of watching football was in the early 70s when Man City were very good and they won the League Cup. My first ever memory was them winning the League Cup in like black and white TV in 71 or whenever it was. So I've supported Man City, and we've obviously, City have gone through a lot of old rubbish over the years. And so all my mates, over Mass and Paul Rogers and Paul Thornton, all remember at school with the Man City thing and them being rubbish. And Paul Thornton has exactly the same scenario as me and supports Stoke City through that, right? So he's had rubbish. But getting on to this, it's come glorious for me now, is that they're the best team in England, although they're probably not this year. But, over the last couple of years, they've been fantastic. So not only are they a good team, but they play good football as well. So my memories are, I remember where I was when they first won it, when Aguero, we were on holiday with Mass, Curly and Paul Thornton and that, playing golf in Portugal. And it was, 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, I got the phone call and we'd won. And I remember that memory of the first time they'd won the league. And then obviously a couple of times after that, was it last year when they got 100 points and that? That's pretty special, and they're a good football team. So my mates, when I say I'm Man City, everybody goes, oh yeah, like everybody's a Man United fan. No, I have always supported Man City, although not really through thick and thin, and I've never really watched them play. I've seen them at Wembley in the 81 Cup final against Tottenham, but other than that, I've only seen them a couple of times. But that's my lasting football memories of that is, City coming from nothing really and winning the league. That would be it.
Sorry, another question's coming from Odin Rules TV. He's a Spurs fan. What's the best away day as a fan?
Best away day as a fan?
Yeah.
Well, I don't go and watch many games. It probably, this is a bit of a piss take because I'm not like obviously these guys. I only ever go when it's a freebie. So Paul Rogers was down at Brighton, and he used to give us the corporate entertainment down there. So as an away day, going watching Brighton, and getting the full corporate hospitality. So all you could drink and eat, and watching. Well, Brighton have been a half decent team in the last few years, although Paul's not there anymore. So that would be my best away day. I've never really gone and watched too many away games, to be quite honest. I've been to Palace a couple of times recently, but that's when you got to support Palace, isn't it? So it's not an away day.
Well, Phil, I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you tonight about your career and obviously especially your time at Sutton United. Sorry, one more question from the live chat.
Go on, I'm good.
From James. Do you get involved in other sports?
Oh, well, this is where I've gone. So I'd love to still be playing football, and I've got the enthusiasm to play, but my back is in bits. So, like, Stuart Mass is a scratch handicap golfer and said, like, you got to stop sometime. You can't play for 50 years, you've done, like, 40-odd years of playing. Just give it up. And I'm not a bad golfer, and I'm actually sat in my bedroom here, and I'm looking out at Chipstead Golf Course. So I live on the back of the golf course. So he said, listen, you can go and play for 30 years, and it really just triggered me, I can get loads of entertainment playing golf. So my son has become very good. He's a professional golfer now. He's doing his PGA degree. I live on the back of a golf course, so golf. I've just come in. I'm dressed in my golf gear now. So the other sport that I love now is golf. And through the lockdown, my son being a professional golfer, he was not being able to actually even walk and go out on our golf course and hit balls has been terrible for him. So I quite quickly had a bit of AstroTurf and put up a net so that we could hit balls. And over that period, and I've got a fairly decent sized garden, we've been chipping and hitting balls into the net, and he's been giving me lessons. So this big fade that I had, I've got rid of it. And so coming out of this lockdown and being able to play again, I've been playing quite well. So a lot of the guys have not been practicing or playing, but I've actually been having free lessons for 9 weeks. And practicing my chipping and practicing that. So I'm looking forward to getting better at golf. Like, it is a very frustrating sport. My analogy is at football, you can have a rubbish game and you could still win 4-0 and you could still be happy, but yourself, you played rubbish. If you hit one bad shot, you want to snap the club. So my mentality has really got to change on the golf course. You can't run about shouting and screaming like I used to. So that's where I've got to discipline myself in the golf game and learn to enjoy a shot when it goes wrong and just get over it. But that's the sport I'm going to dedicate my time to, especially with this beautiful weather. And I've got 30 years of that. I could maybe get another couple of years out of my body, but golf is the way forward for me.
James also wants to know your handicap.
Well, I'm 12, but I played 9 holes earlier and I shot 2 over. And the other day I went round 18 holes in 4 over. But I've still got potential. So 12 is my official, but that was from last year. I'd be interested to see there's competitions coming up. So I'll start playing in them, hopefully. And I do want to get my handicap down. So I think I'd be a 10 handicap when I go back to playing properly, when the competitions start.
And Odin Rules TV asked, who do you think is Sutton United's player of the season? Not sure how much of Sutton you've watched season, but if you have, is there any players that stood out to you and think they should get the award?
No, this season I don't know any of the players really. I know a few of the guys, but I couldn't express an opinion over the players. No, I've lost contact with a lot of the new players, and I do know that there's a big turnaround of players in most clubs now, and I wouldn't know half of them, to be honest with you. I go from one season to another. It's only when Mickey invites me down there for to do some stuff or whatever. But my time spent on the golf, or will be spent on the golf course. So I have enjoyed going down and watching Sutton. But it's not something I'm going to do regularly, or any of my other teams. I've been up to Chipstead and watched games, but it's not really it's not the same watching games, I'm afraid.
Cool. So, as I said, Phil, really enjoyed your time tonight. Thank you very much for coming on SUFCtv and giving the stories of your career. And yeah, I wish you all the best, and stay safe and have a good rest of the evening.
Yeah, thank you very much. I've really enjoyed talking to you guys.
Not a problem at all. Welcome back anytime, Phil. And yeah, have a good rest of the evening. Stay safe.
Thank you.
No
Cheers,
problem at
mate.
all. Sit.
Bye.
Bye. Well, that was Phil Dawson. I hope you all enjoyed that. Coming up this week, Ahmed will be talking to Tony Raines on Tuesday, and hopefully there'll be a Omar Bogle goal coming on the channel. I think it might be this evening. Ahmed said on the chat. I can't get confirmation of that yet, but yeah, Ahmed's commentary over the top of Omar Bugle's Wonder Strike's got goal of the season. Thanks for the subs to the channel as well, Odin Rules. So I hope you enjoy more of our content. So yeah, we speak to Tony Raines, had a long career at Sutton Armour. We're speaking to him on Tuesday. We've got the next part of our season review coming out on Saturday as usual. They'll be coming out every Saturday, obviously. Until we get, I think James Bordeaux edits them and presents them as well. I think obviously because we won't be having the rest of the games as the season's been null and voided. I think we'll be joining some of the months up together, and obviously March will be an extremely short one. So I hope you all enjoyed tonight. Have a good rest evening. We'll see you on Tuesday night for the Tony Raines show where Ahmed will be presenting. So stay safe and bye for now.